welcome to the passengers who joined us at Amsterdam Central here in Dali Street to Amsterdam Central. Our next call is Rotterdam Central.
So I just came back from Laracon. I had a great time, met lots of nice people, including my colleagues at JetBrains, and some very touching and personal talks, as well as some technical and fun ones. So let's take a look. We started with Christoph, who showed off Xdebug in PHP Storm, and it was a good introduction to Xdebug, although I wonder whether there are any real-life examples that fit for a short conference talk that show off the true power of debugging. These dummy examples always feel a little bit too simplistic. Nevertheless, a great talk. I actually learned a thing or two about PHP Storm myself. Next was Stefan, a very touching and honest talk about mental health, and that's something we really should spend more attention on in our community. Lots of respect to Stefan being able to talk about his difficulties while he's actually dealing with them. Then came Marcel, the wizard, showing off some cool CLI stuff. Nothing new for me personally, but it was a nice demo, and it's interesting to think about PHP outside of a web context. Next was Bobby talking about auditing, taking a deep dive into events and middlewares, and how to hook into several places in your code. Again, for me personally, nothing new, but I reckon there are quite a lot of people who learned quite a bit about it. The last talk before the lunch break was Erica about GitHub Actions. I did learn a couple of new things about being able to run them in a cron job and manually triggering them, which I think is very cool. Erica was one of only 2 women speakers, and honestly the conference wasn't as diverse as I and many others had hoped. And this isn't a critique to the organizers, by the way. It's such a difficult topic, and I'm definitely not the right person to make any conclusions here. I suggest you follow Erica on Twitter, where she already talked about the topic. It's definitely something we need to work on. After the break, there was Freek talking about whether we take the blue or the red pill, or both. And of course, async programming in PHP, as well as some other cool stuff he'd been working on. Then there was Luke talking about PEST. Now, I'm personally still not convinced that PEST always has as much impact as many people want it to be, especially in large projects with lots of business logic, but I will actually give it a try on aggregate myself. And this was by far my favorite talk. Luke is an amazing speaker, and I wish I will be at that level one day. Next we had Thijs about Varnish. I already saw his talk a couple of years ago, but Thijs is also a very talented speaker, so while there was nothing new for me, I did enjoy the talk very much. And then there was Giulio, who talked about solid principles and showed lots of code. Perhaps it was a bit too much code so late in the day for me, but still, he was funny. It seemed like he knew what he was talking about and was actually passionate about it. Then finally, there was Diana talking about her career path and sharing valuable lessons. A good closing talk with lots of real-life advice. At one point, though, she shared a personal story, and I noticed a couple of people just talking, laughing, and not really paying attention. I'm sure there was no ill will, but maybe it's a good lesson to learn for all of us. If you don't want to follow along, just step outside, go to the bar, because it was a little distracting and maybe even a little disrespectful at the time. At least that was my perception. So yeah, overall, a great conference. We had a good time. I'm happy I went, and I hope to see you on the next Laracon, but also in the next video. So hit the like button, subscribe, comment, you know what to do. Until next time. After the break, there was Frick. After the break, there was Frick talking about... I really need to see a hairdresser. I'm sorry.